I'm about community, learning, discussion, respect, integrity, truth, science, and discovery. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox.
Justin, you are muted.
I am muted. Okay. I don't know how that happened. Hello. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. I'm your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, Justin Brown, and welcome to the live stream tonight. We're presenting episode 24, Reenactments. Sorry, I was muted there for a second. I did not mute myself, but it was muted. But like I was saying before you guys heard me, I am not an expert on this topic, but I do have some opinions and a few insights on it. Hopefully you guys watching in the live stream have some opinions. I know that there's some groups out there that try really, really hard to see whether reenactments during investigations or they're sometimes called RQs. Some other groups call them other things. But a lot of people think that it's useful, and we're going to talk about it tonight. We're going to go over to the... Uh-oh. I lost my webcam. Let's see why that happened. I do not know, but we're gonna try to see. Okay. It says it's working, but it's not. Okay, whatever. We're going to try to fix things for you guys real quick. And hold on a second. We're having technical difficulties. For some reason, this whole thing is messed up tonight, so we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it for you guys. There we go. That's fixed. We're going to remove...
I just had somebody tell me no volume again. Buzzard on YouTube.
They should be hearing me this time. I don't know what happened to this OBS scene, but it got messed up. But it looks like everything's working now. Sorry about that, folks. If you're a first-time viewer and you don't know how the show works, we would like to interact with you during the show. Of course, I'm going to give my opinion about each topic that we discuss on the show, but periodically through the show, we're going to go to the comments and answer any questions and interact with you guys. So the people that help me do that is right here in front of you. We have Jessica Bias and Missy Vastine helping me tonight. How are you girls?
Good. How are you?
I could have been better. I guess I should check every single thing before every show and not assume. that it's the way it was last week. That's one thing.
It's never how it was the day before.
It's supposed to be.
Right, but it never is.
Well, this is the first time it happened, so I can't agree with you. But Jessica, that was Jessica.
Hi. Doing well.
Are you ready? Well, this is the first time it happened, so I can't agree with you. Okay, something come unmuted. Give me a second. I have Jessica. I don't know why that just happened. My computer's haunted tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what Buzzer said. He says there's a ghost in the machine tonight.
It seemed like it. My Facebook just unmuted, and we started hearing the live stream, which is odd. That's very odd. But we have some people in here tonight. Are you guys ready to get started?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Well, here we go. Let's break a leg tonight, guys. Right? Okay. All right.
What's going on right now? No break a leg.
No breaking leg. Okay. How about?
Not with everything. Not with all the issues.
Okay. All right. So, reenactments. We see it on TV. I think it's an old school tactic that a lot of paranormal investigators have used. I know a lot of people in the reenactment community have told me stories. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind is Gettysburg. There's so many reenactments out there all the time in the battlefields where the battles took place. And all the time, people see battles still being fought out there. You know, ghost people, people from the past, we're going to call them ghosts because we don't understand what they are yet. But people see soldiers carrying flags. They hear gunfire. They hear cannon fire. They hear people yelling and screaming. All sorts of sounds from battle, from the Civil War. So, can we say that the reenactments out there help fuel or incite or stimulate the activity out there? I think it's very, very possible. With that being said, if you go into historical places and try to reenact things that have occurred in the past, that you're trying to connect with a certain time period and a certain energy, and I think that that's key. I think the more you're able to connect with the energy in the location, the more activity you're going to get, and the more data that you get from your investigation. And I just think that it helps educate people on the history when you do reenactments, especially outside of investigations. But we can talk about reenactments outside investigations tonight if you guys would like. If you guys have attended a reenactment and seen things, or if you've just been out on vacation or out and about and seen paranormal phenomena where reenactments take place, it doesn't have to be in investigations. I want to hear about those things. And as I'm talking about this subject and trying to get the show on the road here, I want you guys thinking of questions to ask and, talk amongst yourselves about what you guys do when it comes to connecting with the history and energies that may be present at these locations that we try to investigate. What's also interesting is not all of the reenactments that people do are, let's say, happy. I have seen people try to do some provocative things. I know Matt Benton has done some things that I know a lot of people don't agree with. Things in jails, things in, some dark places. And I don't think he goes overboard with it, but I think that he tailors his ways of connecting with the location to what he may feel that's there, or the stories. He's trying to tailor the provoking and the reenactments to the stories. Now, he's not a big fan of reenactments, but he does things to connect. He'll bring items to locations. I know other people will bring items to locations, so that is kind of like It's part of reenactments, but this whole reenactment thing is trying to trigger something. So outside of trigger objects, you're trying to trigger phenomena using a scene. You're reenacting a scene from the past. It may be something specific. You may know about a murder, about a fight, about something, a trial that took place, anything and everything you can think of to either tap into that energy, or a lot of people believe that spirits or entities that may be watching or observing you, they'll see you do this and have a reaction to it, because maybe they just ignore you until you do something interesting or something that provokes them to act upon it. So those are some ideas and theories out there. I want to know what you guys think, but before we do, we're going to shout some people out on Facebook and YouTube, see who's watching.
Go ahead, Missy.
I've got Matt Benton. I've got Josh Bender. I've got Derek Strainer. I've got Daniel Everson. I've got Tony Felosi. And that's all that's commented right now.
Okay.
On YouTube, I have only Sam has commented and Buzzard has commented, and that's it so far.
Interesting indeed. I know Daniel Everson. Did you shout him out?
Yeah, she did.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
I can't remember. I'm pretty damn tired. Okay. So, any questions yet? Any comments that we should address?
No, I ain't got any yet.
All right. Well, like I said, I'll check back with you girls periodically through the show. Please share this live stream for those that are viewing it.
Sam just asked one if you want me to read it now or later.
Sure.
Okay. She said, is it possible that an event occurred and some things came along and killed the whole event?
I'm going to try to understand that question. I'm not sure if I understand the question, Sam. So you're saying that the event was erased from time? Like the event didn't happen? Help me out, girls. Do you understand that?
I think what she's saying is, the way I understand it is like they did the reenactment wrong.
Is it possible that an event occurred and something came along and killed the whole event? Hard to explain. Okay. Now, energies that exist in a location that originated from an event can be once stored or once imprinted on a location, but that's not permanent all the time. That may be what you're talking about. Something can be cleansed, something can be banished, something can move on, energies can resolve, energies can change. Okay, so that might have something to do with what you're asking. We don't know for sure. This is just me thinking about what could be possible. I think anything is possible. We have to be open-minded about that. Asylums, body lockers, what do you all think as in a reenactment? Sorry, I stole that from you, Missy.
You do it every week.
I'm sorry, but let's address that. Okay. What do you all think as in a reenactment? I think that if you're having trouble, let's say asylums, for example, if you're having trouble connecting with asylums, I don't know if I would reenactment as my first choice. I would do history on the location about all the things that they endured before I got there. Read everything that you can get your hands on. Concentrate on the actual feeling. Put yourself in their shoes. Try to imagine what it would be like to be them. Okay. If you're very imaginative, you can do that. And I think when you get to the location, you'll be able to connect much easier and much faster if you do that. Body lockers, I haven't seen a whole lot of evidence that suggests that if you get into on a morgue table and slide your ass into that thing, that you'll get much of anything. I would be very, very open to seeing things, though. You know, peer reviewing things from that scenario. I think that having the actual emotion in the location can reenact, or is a form of reenactment. So places like asylums, places like prisons, places where people have been subjected to a lot of harm, a lot of psychological warfare and punishment. If you get into that mindset and you start feeling like you were one of those people locked into that place or going through that, I think you can have a lot of personal experiences. Now, I severely doubt that it will help you see ghosts. It may. I really, really, really doubt that you'll get that whatever you sense on camera or on a device. You know, whether it be a fluctuation in magnetic field, temperature, but something happening internally, like your heart rate, your blood pressure, readings that you get physiologically may change, and you may get an anomalous reading from that. I think that investigating places in the locations that Daniel asked it's really important to go on significant days and significant parts of time during the day. We'll get into that. I see that we have some more questions on Facebook and maybe possibly YouTube. Is that right?
I don't have any on Facebook. Well, yeah. Maybe I do.
Paul Browning.
Paul Browning said, I find that talking about subject matter that the target would be interesting and gives good results.
Okay.
More than the reenactments.
So that by doing that, they connect with the energy that could be there or an entity that could be there. More so than reenactments. So that kind of, I feel like that kind of goes along with what I'm suggesting on how to connect. You're talking about them, and through the conversation, you are able to tap into some emotions, some thought patterns that would align with what they may have gone through. I know that a lot of people believe that if you're just sitting around and doing idle chit chat and just, really not actively investigating or trying to do what normal people do on a, regular basis, the cliche thing to do is to go out there, to ask them to do things, and so on and so forth. But when they kind of step back and kind of chill out and they're just talking amongst themselves, they get stuff. And talking about the place or talking about individuals kind of goes along with that, but I think you're actually connecting with energies a little bit more specifically then.
Paul Browning just said something that would compel the target to casually join in.
I've heard people saying appealing to the vanity of entities and certain types of consciousnesses. I don't know what they really meant by that, but if you try to appeal to something part of their vanity, I guess an object or themselves, maybe, if like for example, Missy, if I said, "Oh, your hair looks really good today," would you be more prone to talk to me then if I said that?
I would probably be more prone to tell you were full of shit, but okay.
Okay, well, what if you spent a long time on your hair to make it look the best it could, and then someone noticed it? would you feel more engaging with that person, or would you be more inclined to engage with them? This is just an example, okay?
I guess.
All right, let me ask Jess. Jess, if I said that, oh, your shoes were nice, or your hair looked good, I liked how you fixed it, or something like that, like you're appealing to their vanity.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it would be like breaking the surface of, even like what you're talking about with the reenactment, it would draw them in more.
What you mean breaking the surface? You mean like breaking the ice?
Yes.
Making it feel more comfortable?
Right.
Okay.
Like on their level, and bring, more of a personal.
All right. Well, that's definitely possible. Missy, anything else on Facebook?
Josh just said general conversation.
Right. Hi, Sandy. I see you. Hello, Tony.
We got Philip too.
And Philip. Yay. Yay. We got our normal viewers going. That's awesome. Okay, so nothing on YouTube, right, as far as questions?
Yes. Buzzard asks, is it possible to do a reenactment and bring out the spirit that you were not expecting to get?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, it's kind of like dialing up the wrong number, or maybe you think you know what's there, and what's there is not there, and something else is there. So.
Now, I have a question from me. Now, if you're doing a reenactment and say for Gettysburg, just for an example, wouldn't they be more prone to be upset about the situation or kind of like standoffish because if that's what happened to them? You know what I'm saying?
It's possible. Yes, I think that
or they get angry, because
like you're bringing up old stuff that they don't want to be reminded of.
Right.
I think that's possible, and I think that's a risk with any reenactment or any method that you use. Maybe just the act of trying to communicate with them offends them.
Right. I mean, or like what you were saying before about, a murder or, anything like that. I mean, I would think that they would be upset, and
yeah, I think if
it'll get them more socializing, I would assume.
Right. If you don't want to offend what you're trying to connect with, that would be something you would want to consider. But some people may think, well, I'm just wanting a response that I could validate. I don't really care about how they feel about it, which is cold. But if you think about it, we go onto these locations and we may not be thinking about that all the time. So it's possible, very possible. Go ahead, Missy.
I was just going to say that Sam was talking about her experience about blue lights and people coming in and sitting next to the wall. She said she was going to send me pictures of it. She said it took her to an event third time, and then she's seen it the third time that she was there.
Okay.
I think what she's talking about a reenactment of things that's going on, not, people dressing up or, to try to get them to, you know what I'm saying?
No, what do you mean by things that are going on?
I think what she's talking about is she's seeing the spirits, she's seen them do, what was going on at their locations when they passed away and stuff.
Okay.
That's how I'm receiving, her messages.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about that at all. I don't see anything like that. I don't know how to relate to that.
Sure.
My mom would, though. Anything else?
So that's it on YouTube.
Okay.
Paul Browning said, leave an empty chair at the table. It's respectful, and then talk about subject matter that would interest the target.
Does he have an example of that? Does it depend on the location? I mean, I guess if you return to the location in question, or whatever location he's talking about several times, and you have an idea, if you have, strong ideas about what might be there, I just think that a lot of times we think we know the target, but we don't know the target. I think a lot of times that, we don't know the target at all. But, when it comes to residentials and smaller locations that are less complex and, not as difficult to investigate, you can try to target things. And I think if you're doing it scientifically, you need to have targets and, set, experiments surrounding a certain individual or a certain event that you want to try to see if you can capture. So Paul's got a lot of good ideas about how to maybe get things to do something that it doesn't normally want to do. He kind of tries to think about why things would not want to interact with investigators when they come in. Me personally, I would think that it would feel very intrusive at first. When, investigators come in, they're shouting out commands, they're setting up equipment, they got metaphysical things with them, they got psychics, they may see them or hear them. That could be very intimidating. So there'll be a period of time where you will have to build trust and earn respect with these entities or energies before you can get them to do what you want them to do. So I'm sure he has some more insight on that.
He said maybe even a sign laying flat on the table that reads, "Feel free to join in on our conversation."
So, Paul, I would like to know the difference between asking them to do it and then putting a sign down. Are you suggesting that they may not hear and only see? I'm wondering that. Anything else? I see some interaction going on there.
Chief Lynn Paranormal said we need to wire up the mannequin with sensors.
That would be a good idea. Definitely. I'm glad that people like the mannequin.
Everybody likes Ralphie.
Matt Benton has all kinds of ideas that he wants to do, but I think most of them are just jokes.
Philip Wyatt said the Ghost Brothers were with us at Dragon Con and they reenacted a funeral with one of them getting in a coffin. Said the activity really ramped up. I'm not laying in a coffin.
How did the activity ramp up? What happened? Curious about that. Yeah, that's weird.
Chief Lynn Paranormal said his name is Ralph.
Ralphie. Get it right.
It's Ralphie.
Yeah. There's a story behind that, and I don't know if we should get into it on this show, but if you're curious about how the mannequin got the name Ralphie, you can message me and I can tell you the story if you're that curious about it. But yeah, I'll get back to you girls. Keep the comments coming, guys. It's starting to get pretty interesting. So I've heard several things and several ideas about how to do reenactments, how to get spirits to feel more comfortable, how to be more engaging. I think that whenever you do something, whether it's routine or whether it has a lot of psychokinetic energy surrounding it, I think that it's very possible that you're imprinting. So the question is, if you copy what energy is being imprinted in a location, will that do something to the activity? Will it make the activity happen? What will it do? Will it just fuel what's already there, and does it just happen on its own? I'm not sure about that. And I want you guys to understand that no one really knows if reenactments work. There's no irrefutable proof that ghosts even exist, let alone do they, do things when you do things. Okay? I only thing I know is from what I can tell you from my personal experience and from my research. And I just did a residential case recently I'm going to talk about real quick. In Miamisburg, Ohio, a client called me. They live in a duplex in Miamisburg, and they said that they had some visitors, some spiritual roommates, for lack of a better term, that they were curious about. Some were maybe not so nice to their neighbors on the other side of the duplex, but at that point they weren't really disturbing them. They were just curious about what they were. Me and my mother went up there, and I had her take a look around. I filmed her walkthrough, and when I took baseline EMF readings, the fluctuations were everywhere. All through the house, it was anywhere from 0 to 15 milligauss, and it was never stable. I've never seen any kind of readings quite like that. So I'm asking them questions about their wiring. I'm asking questions about, what normal emissions, that would normally be in the area. So at that point, I'm not sure if it's anomalous or what's normal there. So after the baseline, I sit down the Mel, and we have the clients come into the home, and me and my mother are telling them what we picked up on. And I always sit down the equipment just to see if there's anything that happens with the equipment while we're telling them about what we picked up on it. And this is what was very interesting. At some points, the REM pod on the Mel meter would activate, and there's nothing there to do that. And that was very interesting. And what was even more interesting, that when we revealed the characteristics and behaviors of one of the entities that wasn't so nice, all the fluctuations stopped, and it went to 0, and it never came back. The REM on the Mel hit a couple more times after that, but after about an hour, it stopped. And my mother, what was strange about my mother saying that the entity would leave on its own, it didn't want to be kicked out. So I guess what the entity was trying to do was just to see if it would just leave, and then when we left, it would come back. But when we cleansed the home, my mother could tell that the entity was trying to get back into the home, but couldn't. So I found that whole thing very interesting. And what's interesting about that is my mom, time after time after time, will say the craziest stuff, without blinking, without, any sign that this is just coming out of left field or her imagination. It will be validated and backed up with supporting evidence from devices that are capable of picking up on energies that we can't see. So I was like, this is strange, because, this kind of like has to do with what Paul was saying and some of the others. If you're talking about them, things will happen. Okay, so you will be able to talk about the entities that are there, and you'll be able to get readings from that. So I really want you guys to buckle down on the data that you're able to record during these sessions and during these experiments and investigations. That if you pick up on stuff, I want you to see what's anomalous, what's normal, what's baseline, what goes outside, what is baseline, so we can really see, how things change. So that's very interesting. Do we got any other interactions going on there?
I do. Paul said if the target was not present when you were talking, like when you told it could join your conversation, he said, I want them to know that they can join in at any point in our conversation.
Okay.
Philip said supposedly their equipment started reacting, but the whole thing got cut out of the episode.
Okay. I see that Paul is saying that my request signs work. You can sprinkle them all over a location.
Right.
That's interesting.
He also said a target might just listen in, not knowing that they were invited to join in. Because they may not have been present when you started talking. So the signs always left to let them know without repeating yourself.
Okay. That's the part I didn't understand.
Yeah. Because then you don't have to say every 2 or 3 seconds, you're Come on, join us. Talk with us.
Yeah, and we're assuming that the entities there can see like we see. You know, everything that we're seeing, they can see, which I don't believe is true all the time. But the ones that can, I could see how that should be effective.
He said, like, they all basically say he sprinkles white, he like puts white words everywhere. He said they all basically say, if you can read this, please open the door and you can use any request.
I have to remember that, Missy.
That might be something to try.
Interesting. Anything else on Facebook?
Nope, that's all I got right now.
Buzzard asks, if a reenactment works and you get results, does that mean that the same reenactment will work again for the second time if you try it?
Good question. The only way I would know if that was true is to try it.
Let's go to Gettysburg again.
That's we need to replicate. We need to do things more than once
Yes.
to know. And that's what he's asking. So to answer that question is, I don't know. We should try it. What's rare and what's not the norm is that we go to the same locations all the time. My group, okay? I don't want to speak for anybody else. We rarely go to the same locations enough. Now, some of them that we do, but they might be a year away from each other when we go back. So I've always told myself in the past that maybe we should try to just stick to fewer locations and return over and over again. And that's if we have that luxury of doing that, because there's a lot of places that you don't have that luxury. But if we do have, if you have a location that doesn't cost any money or is very, very cheap, or you can split amongst your group that's close to you that you can return over and over and over, you're doing the paranormal research field more justice by doing that than trying to do all these locations that you possibly can sprinkled out all through the U.S. and wherever you live in the world. I want to know what you think about that. That what I just said. Do you think that we should stick to fewer locations and revisit them over and over and over, or do you think we should go to all kinds of different ones that we can? I would like to know what you guys think about that.
Well, I have a thought on that.
Go ahead.
We've been to the jail 3 times, Blackford County Jail. The first time was my experience with Josh wanting to punch him in the face. The second time, I didn't have that, but Josh wasn't there.
Right.
So would I have had the same reaction if Josh was there?
I don't think so. I think that since you experienced it the first time, you were ready for it the second and third and, times thereafter. I think that you would have been able to see it coming and control, or, you know what I'm saying? You didn't feel anything. I don't have any reasons to believe that Josh was a factor in it, but I know you do. You think maybe there's an entity there that looks very similar to Josh.
Right.
And that's the reason why that happened, because he was there. So
right.
He was there during the world's largest. No, he wasn't there for the world's largest ghost hunt.
No.
So we'll have to get him back in there to see if that happens again. Anything?
You hear that, Josh? I'm coming. Philip said, when we enter a location after meeting client, walkthrough, etc., we state our intentions and purpose for being there to the spirits or whatever is there. We say we were invited, have equipment of what we will be doing, and ask their cooperation when we get to work.
Yeah, I think some entities are very social. Some are not. Some take some coercing. Some are very finicky. It may take some extra effort. We're dealing with things that used to be human most of the time, so they're going to have human-like behavior. There's a spectrum, how social and how interactive they can be. And that's an important factor to consider when you're doing investigation. When science asks you to replicate, you're asking them to replicate human behavior, and the human behavior may vary, and the responses and activity you can get can vary. So that's a variable that we have to realize.
And Josh Bender said, I think it would be rare to have the same exact experience when you revisit a location.
Yeah, I think it's rare if you have an experience, period. Even more rare if you have the same one again. But possible.
Right.
Anything else going on Facebook there?
That's all. Well, Derek said, in the theory of a spirit moving extremely fast is correct. If the theory of a spirit moving extremely fast is correct, they probably can't see anything that is going on at the moment. And Paul said that his open door signs have resulted in doors opening and everything else.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Now, what Derek is saying is, I don't know if that is what's true, or I don't know about that. That's an interesting thing to consider. But I don't have any reason to believe that they have trouble seeing because we're moving slower and they're moving faster. I do not know.
Paul also just said, I think we translate perfectly after we die. We still have the same behaviors and habits to a degree.
Yes. There is no reason to think anything else. Except if you read the novel, What Dreams May Come, people can take on different appearances, and they can, according to the book, they can take on maybe even different behaviors. But I don't think that's the norm. I think that even if you take on different appearances and try to transform, I think that if you're going to believe in souls and spirits, they're going to retain who they are. There's no reason to believe that they wouldn't. Anything on YouTube?
No, Jen's on, and Spirit Stalker just joined as well.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us. We got 15 minutes left, so maybe you can watch the horrible beginning to this show. But we got it under control. But thanks for joining us. So after listening to what I just heard, reenactments should be, if you're going to do them, you should do them consistently. You need to get some usable data using them, whether it works or not work. You got to, do justice to the reenactments. So if you haven't been a group that uses reenactments and you're curious and wanting to do them, commit to them. If you do them a lot and you have data about the reenactment experiment, I would like to see everything that you got. There's a lot of TV shows out there that say that they get stuff, but that's not peer reviewable. So that's why I like doing everything independently. I'm not trying to get on TV. I do release productions, but they're all my own, and I control everything, so I know they're authentic and legit and very, very honest. I think that anything that we want to try in the field, we have to commit to for a certain period of time. I think that each location will change a lot of the variables and a lot of the things that you're trying to target. So I will reiterate that you want to try to revisit the same locations and replicate the same experiments as much as possible so we can get the data, because we are trying to understand. We're trying to find physical evidence of what we think is there. So we need to support what we think is there with physical evidence that will hold up to anyone, the scientific community, the skeptical community, and everyone else under that umbrella. It's very, very important that we do that. And when we do the reenactments, they don't have to be, you can do the full-fledged dress up, act out a scene that you think, aligns with the period or a specific scene. Okay, so the experiments that you do, I want you to try to be very exact in them. Try not to change it up too much. Maybe even do it during the same period of time. Like pick a time. Like, okay, when a certain person was stabbed in this location, so you're going to go revisit that same location at that same time and reenact the stabbing. Okay? You're going to try to find all the details. You're going to research and find all the information about what happened. Police reports, all kinds of, reputable sources to find that information, and you're going to try to replicate it. Now, once you get the data, and if you have to do a baseline first, okay, so I want to emphasize that. I want you to go to the locations and just take data without really asking anything to do anything and just observing. Okay, so the first thing I would do is I'd go to the location, set up cameras, set up audio recorders, set up, devices that monitor and record the environmental factors like temperature, magnetic fields, so on and so forth. We're going to get a baseline. We're going to see what just happens without any interaction. We'll leave the location and let just what happens normally happen. If people live there, let them go on, about their lives. Once you get a good baseline, then you're going to go in there and then you're going to start playing around. And you're going to start figuring things out. So that's what I would suggest you guys try. Go ahead, Jess. Oh, I thought you were unmuting yourself.
No, sorry, I was coughing. Deity actually joins, and I thought there was somebody else. John G. Since you called me out, but I was coughing.
I hear some people on Facebook that are suggesting other things that may trigger activity. We try music. What do you think about music, Missy?
I like the music theory. I don't know that it's worked.
What do you think does work?
I don't know.
What do you think works? Like what method?
I don't know. I guess going about your stuff. Like, you're just looking around, taking pictures, whatever. Came into the Scorpio building and you're just like messing around.
What I found that hardly anything that we try works, but just stuff happens when we're not
naturally on its own, right?
When we're not expecting it to happen,
right?
I mean, Paul is claiming that he can, with the stuff he gets, is when he's controlling the stuff he gets. When that interests me a lot. I think that when we do get activity and when it starts happening, like at Thornhaven Manor, for example, I think that it was playing around with the REM pod, and then when I scared it off, we definitely had an interaction.
Right.
But I'm just so curious about reenactments or certain ways to trigger things to happen. I mean, it's so dependent on the location. I don't think one way is going to work for each location. What do you think about that?
I think you're right. I mean, like at Waverly Hills, for example, those people have been asked all of those questions for so long. Just walk through there and talk to each other. Tell them they can join in if they want.
Talk about what happened in the first episode when you and Derek went up to the fourth floor to the surgical room. How did you get that to come across? What explain what happened.
I don't even remember.
Remember, you guys walked up to the 4th floor, you entered it, and you're trying to decide where to put the REM pod or the Melmeter.
Right. Right.
So something happened. You got voice phenomena, right?
Right. It said it here, right here.
So
it
was you guys were asking each other questions about where to place the device.
Right.
And it suggested where to put it.
Right.
But when you ask it to do things, it doesn't do it.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
Well, like I said, they're asked all of these questions so many times in a week because there's an investigation there every night of the week. So you just go about your business and do your thing, and they're like, oh, okay, well, these people are normal. We can talk to them.
But they established they wanted to talk to you. They suggested where to put it, wherever right here is. How come they didn't respond after that?
I don't know. I mean, we were just going about our business, arguing, and like we normally do.
Well, you were just investigating. You weren't arguing.
Right.
But I just think that I really believe that entities are trying to interact, but we just don't hear them and we don't pick it up. And certain times it emerges, like there's their dimension here and our dimension here. We're going to say dimensions because we don't know.
Right.
And they're decohered. Okay. Sometimes they cohere and they're there in the same space, the same time we are at that moment. And then it decoheres again. And it constantly goes like this. We cannot predict when that oscillation occurs. So that's something to consider. Go ahead and read through some of these Facebook comments. I've seen several.
Chief from Paranormal said, oh, Lord. She said the N-word, normal. Let's see. I've got a really long one up here.
Heather's. Yeah, read Heather's.
Yeah. It says, I've been to locations multiple times, and it's good as far as being able to duplicate what you did the last time. Try new tactics. Further, try to debunk something that may have happened before. But I have not been able to duplicate any experiences thus far. There are so many variables, though.
Right. Now, Heather, what notes do you take? Like, when you set up an experiment and you get something, do you write down the time, the date, the weather, everything that you could possibly think of, and then try to go back when those factors and variables line up closely or exact to see if you get the same thing again?
Well, that's what she said. For example, it's hard to repeat the location and have the same exact weather conditions, like the moon phase and the weather conditions and things like that.
Right. That's yeah, that's the problem, right? So if those things are what makes it go like this, then that's the whole key to it all. I think that if we can get a lab like area or a lab like control over a specific location that's haunted, to where we can control those elements, those factors, those variables, then that's when we can start doing real research with those ideas and theories. Until then, it's a shot in the dark. So those who are listening to this live or in post, if there's any way you can get a location that you're investigating or you can return to again and again, is there any way to get it to where you can control the temperature, the barometric pressure, everything that you can control like that? Now you can't control the orbit of the moon or celestial objects in space, but you can control weather and pressure and other stuff like that if you have a lab like environment to do that. That would be cool, right? I want to do it. Paul, build me a lab. Build me a mobile ghost lab. Just bill me. Put it on my tab. Anything else?
No, I don't have any. Well, I do have some stuff, but it's just Derek and Philip having a conversation.
Okay, well, We'll let them continue. Anything on YouTube?
Spirit Stalker said, I know if people are arguing in the family, spirits will hit the wall or make a distraction to stop it. It has happened to me more than once.
That's interesting.
And also they were talking about dogs and how sensitive they can be.
Awesome.
They're mostly just talking amongst each other.
Awesome. All right. Well, we have 2 minutes left. I want to thank you guys for joining me again. This show, I'm trying to make it better. I'm trying to come up with topics that are interesting, that will do is very useful for us when we go out to do the things that we do all the time. And if you have any ideas for topics of the show, please message me, comment on this live video with your, suggestions for topics. You can message my Justin Brown blog page, message me on my profile on Facebook, email me at justinbrown@interfacedeath.net. Whatever you can do. I want to see all the stuff that you guys do. So if I'm not interacting with your YouTube videos or your Facebook stuff or the stuff that you put out there and publish on the internet as far as the results you get from investigations, make sure that I get it somehow, because not only do I want to see the stuff that I'm doing, obviously, I want to see the stuff that you're all doing. And we need to start a network and a community of peer review. All of us need to do that and be good at that. So I'm going to wrap this up, guys. Is there anything else that we need to address before we end it?
Nothing on YouTube. Mothman.
Mothman just joined in?
Yeah. Yes. Well, he might have been watching through the whole thing, but he finally did comment.
Oh, what did he say?
2 red circles.
Oh, yeah. I think that's his Mothman. That's his call sign. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully he was watching the whole time. Okay, go ahead.
Hold on. He has a question. What about the ideas that these entities themselves are reenacting things that happen in the area in a way to communicate or let you know something?
Yes. That is very interesting. It's also interesting when you do the reenactment that people see other things happening that's paranormal. Like, for example, like a really generic example would be someone going down the hallway, opening a hall door, going in there and shutting off a light. That might be something they're doing over and over, or that might be something they're doing to communicate something. So maybe if you did that same thing, maybe that would let the entity know that you saw what they wanted you to see. So that's interesting to consider, but I think it is possible that entities reenact things to communicate or to convey something. Absolutely. I think it's possible.
That's it on YouTube.
All right. Facebook?
Heather Elliott said, I haven't looked, but it would be cool if a program was written that investigators could use to constantly input and share data, a database of data, charts, and everything.
Sounds like work. That's what's required, though, right? To really do the work, the paranormal research, justice. Heather would be doing it, though. I see her doing that.
Philip said, look on Paranormal Georgia investigation site for the link to the data collective.
What is it again?
Paranormal Georgia investigation site for the link to the data collective.
Paranormal Georgia?
Yeah. Investigations.
Is that on Facebook?
It says a site, so I'm not really sure if it's a site or a page. Philip, can you reiterate what that is?
Oh, that's Phillips? Oh, I can just ask him.
Okay.
I can just
That's
ask
all
him.
I got.
All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Another episode in the books. like I said, if you have any other topic ideas, I take suggestions from everybody and we vote on them 2 at a time each week. Thanks for joining me each and every week. It is very, very, very fulfilling for me to do this show. It's very important to my paranormal research, and I love that, you know, this paranormal community is still going strong, and hopefully it means something to you guys as well. I think it does, or you wouldn't watch or comment, right? So that's where I'll leave it. Tomorrow night we have Necromancer live show, and I did not ask Tammy how to pronounce her last name, but I think it's Giamatti. Tammy Giamatti. Okay, she's on Facebook. She's a paranormal investigator. I think she's a metaphysicist too. I have to reread her bio. But tune in tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We don't have a lot of Eastern Daylight Time left. It's going to change soon. But I would like to see you guys tomorrow night watching the show. It's going to be another awesome night with an awesome guest. So tune in for that. Check us out on interfacedeath.net and check out Deadlight LLC on Facebook. And go to our website and check out all the social links. Check out all the videos that we have. Check out everything. And let's give a shout out to our Patreon supporters. If you are a first-time viewer and you don't understand what Patreon is, patreon.com is a way that you can financially support us and get rewarded for doing that. It can be a very small contribution, $1 a month, or there's different tiers like $25, $50. The more money you put in, the more you get back in rewards and the more you support us. But without these names and these Patreon supporters on the screen, there just would not be all this content that you're seeing every week, and you wouldn't see all the video productions and stuff out there available on the internet that we publish. So a big shout out and thanks to them: Christy Brown, Clay Borman, Matthew Jackson, Matt Benton, Danette Goldtrip, Landon Wells, Paranormal Response Team, Gwendolyn Guthrie, Jessica Bias, RJ Murphy, Liz Coy, Bill Davis, and Scotty Fox. Thank you very much for your continued support. So there we have it. We're going to wrap this up. You guys have a good evening. You are in my heart. I love you all very much. Join us on Necromancer tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I will see you next time.
What was that?
I don't know. I feel like I can't breathe in this room.
Generally, Justin, when you guys investigate, do you just take long pauses, wait to see if you hear things, and observe everything that's going on?
It depends on the location and our experience with the location. So in this case, at Waverly Hills, since we've been here before, we've heard a lot of stories, done a lot of research, and investigated, we typically like to listen a lot because we hear the coughing, we heard it last time, so we didn't hear it again.
Everything just got